Earlier this year, almost immediately after I declared that this would be a better year for me, I was the sole attendant of a car wreck. It was a peaceful evening, a Monday. I was en route back to my home after spending the day at the park with my girlfriend. All was normal, up until the picosecond, which it was not. In the tail end of my drive, my car met the tail end of its life when it connected with the tail end of a deer. It was a heartfelt moment, though brief. In the era of social distancing, human life became synonymous with one of its far-removed ancestors, though only by regret. See, in my area of town, deer are common, and quite temperamental in their decision to die of old age. I mean, I can't blame them. If someone built a highway through your bedroom, will you not jump from your queen-sized haven into the firm hug of a radiator and all its warmth? If not, they at least escape all the commotion. So by my luck, I had avoided meeting this fate in my earlier years of driving. I walked away completely unscathed. My very first car? Not so much. So in the time space in between securing my next vehicle and rolling snake eyes on Deer Avenue, I still needed a way to move about. There were important things coming up soon, like my birthday on the 9th, and I guess voting on the 6th. And I live on the side of town where it'd be easier to hitch a ride on a Dust Devil than to hail an Uber. Luckily, my parents blessed me with the old family car, a 2003 Toyota Avalon in a shade of blue that I couldn't find on Google to save my life. But it's all good, because it had faded to a different hue of another indecipherable name many years prior. No longer was I in the quaint two-seat sport car I learned to drive in, and subsequently make a name for myself in. I was in a full-size four-door car built specifically for getting families to where they needed to be, along with all their luggage and cassette tapes and 7-Eleven extra large Slurpee cups, and that one random Arby's bag that found its way under the passenger seat, even though your whole family swears they've never even considered visiting an Arby's, and that Arby's is a money laundering scheme devised by Ja Rule to hide other funds from Firefest. I now was in a purely utilitarian machine that was only characterized by the memories made inside of it, and all the hopes of places that it would take my family and I, silently subdued by the phrase, "It's not about the destination, but the journey," which by the way is a disingenuous mantra that completely disregards the fact that both elements of a trip have their own pros and cons, but it's an essay for another day. See, for about a week and a half, I was in a tool designed for and around one purpose, and it was the exact American size needed to do just that. My old Mercedes was the size of compromise. Sure, fit groceries for a week for one with the roof up, and maybe it would get me from here to Maine without dying. But if it was up to me and myself to go to Six Flags, I'd have to take the bus, as there was no room for three. Pentax Auto 110 follows the same philosophy, while raising the same question: where does size justify the compromise of performance? For this microscopic point-and-shoot camera, it's less on image quality, but more on the way the image is captured. For only so long were people impressed by my adorable German sports coupe, till they realized they were the third person, and would have to find another way to get to our next destination. The Pentax 110 sacrificed usability for form factor. Bereft from any sort of manual controls will you find the top of this camera, leaving only space for a 2-step shutter advance, shutter release button, flash sync terminal, and flash mounting point. Not even a hot shoe, as it would take up a fourth of the camera. That remaining space is occupied by the viewfinder. They managed to fit a pentaprism in the small silhouette, which allows a view directly where your camera is pointing at, regardless of what lens is attached. The lens I had used was the 28mm f2.8, which would be about a 50mm equivalent lens when crop is accounted for, as this is equivalent to a micro four thirds camera. Not only is this my first 110 film camera, but also my first micro four thirds equivalent camera. So there's that. There are things I'm willing to forgive for the sake of convenience. Sure, it's an $11 upcharge from Zaxby's when I order them from DoorDash, but if there's even a dash of drizzle going on outdoors, I'd rather open my wallet than my bedroom door. The Pentax Auto 110 hands in its vested keys when it comes to control, but who really cares? Moral quandaries could be raised when it comes to the styling of this camera. Was it right to ape the design of a traditional SLR without including any of the benefits, like the decency of a proper light meter that isn't just a green light on anything above 1/30th a second, red for whatever below, up to and including several seconds? Maybe you could argue that this is a homage to Pentax's larger full-frame SLRs. The shape made it more familiar to what past people's minds drew when someone proclaimed the word camera. That was 1978, and to risk damaging my flux capacitor when asking what Asahi Pentax had in mind when designing the Auto 110, instead of telling my parents to invest in Dogecoin or trying McDonald's Szechuan sauce the first time, would be another mistake I'd go back in time to stop myself from making. The design decision has already been set in stone, for better or worse. Sure, when shooting horizontal, my nose blocks the ability of holding the camera to my face, and 110 format leaves a lot open to interpretation at 12 megapixel scan equivalent. But that's just a sign of the times. Just as I wouldn't sign up for ride sharing in my Mercedes, I wouldn't shoot 110 for mind-blowing quality. In the age of affordable 35mm film, 110 is for pure enjoyment. Buy this camera as a supplementary tool to accompany your daily film camera. You will always have a fun little toy when you want to take your mind off things like proper shutter speed or whatever an aperture is. Set your focus to the infinite and enjoy.